Filmmaker and activist Michael Moore has responded to the fact that he is mentioned in Luigi Mangione's manifesto. And his response may surprise some people. So I'm going to get to a few quotes from his Substack post. I'm also going to link to the full post below the video in the description box on YouTube. It is really worth reading through the entire post. It's a bit long, but it's worth the read. Michael Moore, I think, is a fantastic communicator, and he does it well in this piece as well. But I'm going to pull out a few quotes from it. I'm also going to get to the Christmas gift that Michael Moore has given all of us. So, first here, this is the part of the manifesto where Michael Moore is mentioned. I discussed the full manifesto and read through it all. It's a short manifesto. It's like a blog post, a note. But I read through it all in a video earlier this week. But here's the part where Moore is mentioned. Mangione writes, frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument, but many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal, Moore, speaking of Michael Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain, speaking of the American for-profit healthcare system. So Michael Moore, a few days later, put out this post, a manifesto against for-profit health insurance companies by Michael Moore. Before I forget, I just want to mention, Ken Klippenstein is the reason that people even saw this manifesto. The media, like CNN, New York Times, they all have it, but they were not willing to release it. And then Ken Klippenstein got a hold of it and released it. And you could kind of see, reading through it, why they didn't want to release it. It speaks to a rotten core at the heart of the health insurance industry that a lot of media is not willing to combat, or at least hasn't up until this point been willing to discuss on a consistent basis. But so this is Michael Moore's full post again. I'll link to it below the video under sources. But he goes on to write here, it's not often that my work gets a killer 5-star review from an actual killer. And thus my phone has been ringing off the hook, which is bad news because my phone doesn't have a hook. Emails are pouring in, text messages, requests from many in the media. The messages all sound something like this. Quote, Luigi mentioned you in his manifesto, that people should listen to you. Will you come on our show or talk to our reporter and tell them that you condemn murder? I can already picture these sorts of messages going out to him, because this is how these sorts of media operations, this is how they operate. It was the same thing when it came to the mass atrocities being committed by the Israeli government. Will you come on our show and condemn Hamas? Yet, are they going to ask their guests that are coming on to defend Israel's genocide? Are they going to come on and in their invite ask them to condemn what Israel is doing? No, it's a one-sided argument, or one-sided idea they're always trying to push across. And it always has to do largely with where money is coming from, where their money is coming from, where the power center is. And when it comes to a country like Israel and its close relationship with the US, and AIPAC being a massive epicenter in terms of the money being poured into elections for or against candidates, or in the case of healthcare, the healthcare industry, the amount of money that private for-profit healthcare pours into lobbying the US government and pours into ads when it comes to mass media. It's clear where the power is in both those situations, which goes to speak to where the perspective is. But Moore goes on to write, the anger is 1,000% justified. It is long overdue for the media to cover it. It is not new. It has been boiling, and I'm not going to tamp it down or ask people to shut up. I want to pour gasoline on that anger. Yes, I condemn murder, and that's why I condemn America's broken, vile, rapacious, bloodthirsty, unethical, immoral healthcare industry, and I condemn every one of the CEOs who are in charge of it, and I condemn every politician who takes their money and keeps this system going instead of tearing it up, ripping it apart, and throwing it all away. We need to replace this system with something else, something caring and loving, something that keeps people alive. These insurance corporations and their executives have more blood on their hands than 1,000 9/11 terrorists, and that's why they are scrubbing their executives' profiles from their websites and putting up fences around their headquarters, because they know what they have done. You can't be the CEO of a company where you knowingly deny care to people, often leading to their deaths, and not have people mad at you. People hate you. People who have no pity for you because you have no pity for them. This whole paragraph says so much, and I think speaks to the real feeling that people have and why they have no remorse for what happened, because they know people in their own lives, their own family members, who have been screwed, and themselves been screwed by the health healthcare industry, a for-profit healthcare industry, which again, the whole point of it is to make money. That's why it is a for-profit system compared to other systems around the world that are actually universal, where they prioritize healthcare. Healthcare in the US is prioritized based on wealth, not based on need, which is why healthcare in America is great if you're wealthy, and it's a crapshoot for everybody else, and often leads to things like medical debt or medical bankruptcy, which practically does not exist in other countries. Last bit I'm gonna pull here. He says, "Give us all the same healthcare that every other civilized country on Earth has: universal, free, compassionate, and full of life." And he pulls out some examples. Give us Scotland, give us Uruguay, give us Taiwan, give us Canada, and then he gives us a Christmas gift. He has now put his entire Sicko documentary on YouTube. So, of course, this documentary goes over the American healthcare system and the insanity of having it be a for-profit private system. Now, I saw this back in 2007. I may have seen it in theaters, but it's one that I may go and revisit just because it's still applicable today, even though this is pre Obamacare, pre ACA. The Affordable Care Act, all it did essentially was really embolden private health insurance. I'm not saying there weren't benefits to it in terms of the ability for or the inability for these companies to deny people care based off, pre-existing conditions, for example. But it it essentially codified or solidified the hold that private insurance has over healthcare when it really could have been a move to a single payer system or a public option. Though I think single payer is really the way to go. Public option, I think I've discussed this before, but I think it would undermine the ability for single payer to ever take hold because you would have private insurance essentially be able to benefit off of a public option where sick people are offset to the public system, draining it of resources. Whereas you have a true single payer system where there truly is no in network, out of network, everyone has the same level of health care. It would give a universality to healthcare in a way that I think is both beneficial to people generally, but also beneficial culturally. But apart from that, I think this is a worthwhile watch. If you never saw Sicko, definitely go check it out. And if you saw it a while ago, I'm sure it's worth the revisit. So I will link to this below my video as well. It's weird to me that Michael Moore is a divisive person. Like there are people that they can't stand him. I don't know why. he's always come off to me as somebody who is he's very honest in his reporting, what he discusses. Yes, he has a perspective, of course he does. But his perspective is based on a critique of whatever it is he's critiquing. So, is there going to be at times, you may argue, oh, but he's so focused on this thing or this thing, and he doesn't mention this thing. That's the reality of any kind of journalism, any kind of, documentary. There's going to be gaps in what you show, what you don't show. But if the ultimate point that he's trying to make is correct and accurate, which it always has been, then it's always been weird to me to, be deeply critical of this or that, because it's always come off as a way to try and undermine his ultimate point. So that's what people have tried to do. What critics have tried to do to him over the years is they'll find one scene or one thing where, oh, he didn't mention this, as a way to try to kill his whole argument. But when he's correct, be it on issues with guns, on issues in the healthcare system, George Bush, and Donald Trump, his criticisms are accurate. Definitely check out Sicko. Again, if you haven't already, I will link to it below the video. Michael Moore continues to be, I think, one of the clearest voices on whatever issue it is in America, be it politics, healthcare, war. He has been consistent and definitely somebody that I think is worth listening to.